Deep underground, in chambers untouched for tens of thousands of years, strange creatures, cryptic symbols, and impossible visions stare back at us, as if the Ice Age itself left behind a secret we were never meant to see. Beneath the limestone hills of southwestern France, deep inside the labyrinth of the Lascaux cave complex, lies one of prehistory's most enigmatic images, the shaft scene. Hidden away in a narrow, vertical chamber far from the grand, animal-filled galleries, it depicts a scene unlike any other in Paleolithic art. At its center is a human figure, crudely rendered compared to the lifelike bison beside it. The man appears to be falling backward or lying flat, arms outstretched, with a bird-shaped staff standing nearby. The bison, massive and wounded, seems to have been pierced by a spear, its entrails spilling in a vivid portrayal of injury and death. A woolly rhinoceros is sketched just beyond, walking away from the drama, while the shaft itself is littered with signs and abstract markings whose meaning has been lost to time. Radiocarbon dating places the artwork at roughly 17,000 years old, belonging to the Magdalenian period. Yet despite decades of study, archaeologists remain uncertain about its purpose. Was it a hunting record? A shamanic vision? A myth retold in paint and stone? The unusual combination of human, animals, and symbolic objects is rare, almost unique, in the known corpus of Ice Age art. Standing in the cool darkness of the shaft, one is left with the same unanswered question faced by the first researchers who descended here. Is this a memory, a ritual, or a story meant for eyes that will never see the light of day again? Deep within the shadowed recesses of Chauvet cave in southern France lies a wall that seems to breathe with life, the predator panels. Dating back more than 30,000 years, these sweeping compositions capture a moment in prehistory with extraordinary realism, their charcoal lines and ochre washes preserved in still air and perpetual darkness. Here, in an almost cinematic arrangement, prideful lions stalk unseen prey, their bodies taut with muscle, their heads lowered in perfect coordination. Alongside them, sleek panthers and heavy-browed cave bears emerge from the rock itself, their forms overlapping in a dynamic rhythm of movement. The artists, Aurignacian hunters and gatherers, worked with a mastery of shading and perspective rarely seen in Ice Age art, creating depth and tension that draws the eye across the stone. The choice of predators is intriguing. Unlike the bison, horses, or mammoths so often celebrated in Paleolithic painting, these are creatures seldom hunted for food. Their presence suggests a different purpose, perhaps a spiritual reverence, an expression of fear, or a ritual meant to capture their strength. The absence of humans in the scene only heightens the sense that we are intruding on a world where animals held dominion. No one can say for certain why these predators were immortalized here in such numbers and detail. Were they part of a story passed down through generations? Or do they represent a symbolic power now lost to time? In the dim glow of a lamplight, the lions still stalk across the wall, hunting forever in a silence older than history itself. Beneath the rolling hills of Cantabria in northern Spain lies the cave of Altamira, home to one of the most celebrated masterpieces of Paleolithic art, the polychrome bison. Painted over 14,000 years ago during the Magdalenian period, these monumental figures stretch across the cave's low ceiling, their vibrant colors and lifelike forms astonishingly well preserved. Rendered in rich shades of red, black, and ochre, the bison appear in various postures, some standing alert, others in motion, and a few resting as if caught in a moment of calm. The artists used the natural contours of the rock to give the animal's three-dimensional form, cleverly shaping the illusion of muscle and volume with every curve and shadow. Charcoal outlines define their massive shoulders and sweeping horns, while mineral pigments bring a warmth that still glows in the flicker of artificial light. The purpose of these paintings remains a subject of debate. Some scholars suggest they were part of hunting rituals, intended to summon abundance or success. Others believe they held a symbolic or spiritual significance, perhaps linked to the cycles of nature or the identity of the group that created them. The cave's difficult access and intimate setting hint at a space meant for select participants, not for daily life. Lying on the cool stone floor and gazing upward, one can imagine the dim glow of torches, the scent of earth and smoke, and the quiet concentration of the artists at work. The bison still seem to breathe, their presence as commanding today as it was millennia ago, a testament to a vision whose meaning we may never fully grasp. In the limestone heights of northern Spain's Cantabria region, the cave of El Castillo holds one of the oldest known works of art on Earth, the red disc. Hidden deep within the Monte Castillo complex, this simple yet haunting image is nothing more than a circular mark of red pigment. And yet, its significance may stretch across tens of millennia. Radiocarbon dating of the mineral crust overlaying the pigment places its creation at least 40,800 years ago, a time when both modern humans and Neanderthals inhabited Europe. The disc's deliberate form, painted with ochre on the uneven wall, suggests intention, though its meaning has been lost to time. Was it a symbol, a signpost, a ritual mark, or something altogether different? Its stark simplicity contrasts with the complex animal scenes found elsewhere in Paleolithic caves, as if speaking in a visual language now forgotten. The red disc is part of a larger panel that includes hand stencils and other abstract shapes, forming what may have been a symbolic composition. The possibility that Neanderthals themselves could have painted it challenges long-held assumptions about the origins of art and symbolic thought. Standing before it today, one is struck not by its size or complexity, but by its persistence, a single, enduring gesture that has outlived empires, species, and ages. In the stillness of the cave, the red disc remains, a silent message from a time before history began, waiting for someone to understand its voice. In the limestone heart of France's Lot region, the cave of Pêche Merle shelters one of prehistory's most captivating scenes, the spotted horses. Painted around 25,000 years ago during the Gravettian period, the two horses face each other across the wall, their forms elegantly outlined in black and filled with a constellation of dark spots. The artists used charcoal and manganese oxide to create the outlines, then applied the spots in a deliberate, patterned way, possibly by blowing pigment through hollow bones or directly from the mouth, using the hand as a stencil. Remarkably, the natural bulges and curves of the cave wall were integrated into the horses' shapes, giving them a sense of volume and life. Surrounding the horses are negative hand stencils, ghostly silhouettes where pigment was blown around an outstretched palm. These hands, belonging to both adults and children, form a human presence that bridges the gap between us and the Ice Age world. Whether the spots on the horses were meant to depict real markings, seasonal camouflage, or a symbolic code is still unknown. The scene raises questions that science cannot yet answer. Were these horses part of a hunting ritual, a mythic story, or an early expression of individual artistic style? In the dim, flickering light of torches, the spotted coats would have seemed to shimmer, the hands a silent chorus of those who gathered here. Even now, standing before the panel, one feels the echo of that moment, when art was both a reflection of life and a mystery unto itself. High in the Pyrenean foothills of southwestern France, the caves of Gargas hold one of the most haunting enigmas of Ice Age art, the amputated hands. Created over 27,000 years ago during the Gravettian period, these images are not carved or drawn but formed as negative stencils, made by blowing pigment around hands pressed against the cave wall. What makes them extraordinary is their appearance. Many of the stenciled hands are missing fingers or sections of fingers. Some show only stubs where digits should be, while others are reduced to partial palms. At first glance, it is easy to imagine injury, frostbite, or deformity. Yet the sheer number of altered hands suggests something more deliberate. Archaeologists have debated their meaning for decades. One theory proposes that the missing fingers are the result of cold-related damage in a harsh Ice Age climate. Another suggests ritual finger amputation as part of symbolic or shamanic practices. A third, less grim possibility is that the amputations were illusions, the result of folded fingers creating coded gestures, perhaps a form of prehistoric sign language. The stencils appear alongside animal figures and abstract marks, suggesting they were part of a broader symbolic system. Their location deep inside the cave, in spaces requiring effort and torchlight to reach, implies that they held significance beyond casual decoration. Standing in the narrow passages of Gargas, surrounded by these silent hands, one is struck by their human immediacy. Each is a direct imprint of a living person, a presence that reaches across tens of millennia, yet their meaning remains locked in the stone, as elusive as the breath that placed them there. Beneath the cliffs of Cap Morgiou, near Marseille on France's Mediterranean coast, lies the hidden entrance to Cosquer Cave, a passage now entirely underwater. To reach its chambers, divers must navigate 175 meters through a submerged tunnel, emerging into air-filled spaces where Paleolithic paintings, preserved for tens of thousands of years, still cling to the rock. The art within dates to two distinct periods, around 27,000 years ago and again about 19,000 years ago, and includes more than 200 images. Horses, ibex, bison, and aurochs share the walls with rarer subjects in cave art. Seals, penguins, and fish, testifying to a world where Ice Age coastlines lay far beyond today's shores. These marine animals, painted in deft strokes of charcoal and ochre, suggest a deep connection between the artists and the sea. Equally striking are the many hand stencils, some with missing fingers like those at Gargas, their negative forms created by blowing pigment around outstretched hands. The cave's unique preservation is due to its isolation. After the last ice age, rising seas flooded the entrance, sealing the art away in darkness for millennia. Today, only a fraction of humanity will ever see Cosquer directly. The journey requires technical diving skill, and the paintings themselves remain vulnerable to the effects of modern climate change and sea level rise. In the dim chamber above the waterline, the seals and horses still keep their silent vigil, a record of lives lived when the sea was distant, and a reminder that even the most enduring art can be swallowed by time and tide. Deep within the Dordogne region of France, the Rouffignac cave winds for over 8 kilometers through the limestone, a vast subterranean network that earned the nickname La Grotte aux Cent Mammoths, the Cave of 100 Mammoths. Its walls bear the marks of prehistoric artistry from around 13,000 years ago, during the Magdalenian period, when skilled hands rendered animals in sweeping, confident lines. The mammoth dominates here as nowhere else in Ice Age art. Over 150 depictions, drawn in black manganese oxide or engraved into the soft rock, populate the cave's galleries. Some stand alone, massive and deliberate. Others are part of lively processions, tusks curling forward, trunks reaching toward unseen companions. The artists used both walls and ceilings, often working high above the floor, perhaps standing on scaffolds or natural ledges to reach their chosen canvas. What is striking is the mixture of simplicity and sophistication. A few bold strokes to capture the curve of a tusk, the slope of a forehead, the arc of a back. Alongside the mammoths appear bison, horses, ibex, and woolly rhinoceroses. Yet the sheer number of mammoths suggests they held special meaning. Whether this was reverence, memory, or myth remains unknown. The cave also preserves the traces of those who made it. Prehistoric finger flutings, torch marks on the ceilings, and ancient footprints impressed into clay. As you move deeper into the mammoth galleries, the repetition becomes almost hypnotic, as if the mammoth itself, long extinct, still walked through the artist's minds. In the still air, you can almost hear its silent tread echoing through the stone. In the Ariège region of the French Pyrenees, far within the twisting passages of Niau's cave, lies a chamber known as the Black Salon, a vast, cathedral-like space where Ice Age artists left a legacy of extraordinary precision and power. Dating to the Magdalenian period, around 13,000 years ago, the walls here are alive with black-painted images, executed in mineral pigment with remarkable control. The dominant figures are bison, ibex, and horses, each outlined in bold strokes of charcoal or manganese oxide. The animals are rendered with naturalistic proportions and careful attention to muscle, posture, and expression. Many appear to be in motion, heads lowered, legs bent, as if captured mid-stride. The compositions are deliberate, with animals spaced across the walls as though part of an intentional narrative or sequence. What sets the Black Salon apart is its placement deep within the cave, far from daylight. To work here, the artists would have relied entirely on torchlight or stone lamps, their flickering glow making the painted figures seem to move across the rock. The chamber's acoustics are equally striking. Sounds echo and carry, suggesting that sight and sound together may have played a role in rituals or performances connected to the art. Despite decades of study, the purpose of the Black Salon's paintings remains a mystery. Were they records of hunts, symbolic offerings, or visions seen by shamans in trance? The space still feels charged, its walls holding not only the images but the unspoken intentions of those who created them. In the darkness, the bison stand waiting, as they have for thousands of years, for their story to be understood. In the Vizir Valley of southwestern France, the Cave of Fontagaume holds one of the last great polychrome art galleries still open to the public, and at its heart lies the Bison Frieze, a masterpiece of Ice Age painting. Created around 17,000 years ago during the Magdalenian period, the frieze stretches across a curved wall, its animals rendered in rich shades of red, brown, black, and white. The bison here are alive with movement. Some stand broadside, their massive shoulders and humped backs dominating the space. Others turn their heads as if aware of unseen companions. The artists skillfully used the natural contours of the cave walls to give the animals depth, allowing shadows and curves in the rock to suggest muscle and volume. Fine details, the sweep of a horn, the layering of fur, were added with deft strokes, combining realism with a powerful sense of presence. Interwoven among the bison are other creatures: reindeer, horses, and mammoths, creating a layered visual tapestry. Overlapping figures suggest that the wall was repainted and added to over generations, turning it into a living canvas for the community. The purpose of the frieze remains open to interpretation. It may have been part of a hunting ritual, a symbolic record, or a spiritual tableau linking humans to the animals on which they depended. Standing in the dim lamplight of the gallery, the bison seem almost to shift and breathe, their painted forms responding to the flicker of light as they did millennia ago. Here, in the quiet of the cave, the Ice Age world still lives, just beyond reach. In the heart of the Vizir Valley, the narrow passageways of Les Camberelles cave form a stone-bound archive of Ice Age imagination, the engraved bestiary. Dating to around 13,000 years ago in the Magdalenian period, its walls are etched with more than 600 finely incised figures, creating one of the richest collections of prehistoric engravings known. By the flicker of stone lamps, artists carved an astonishing range of creatures into the soft limestone. Mammoths with curving tusks, reindeer with sweeping antlers, bison, horses, cave bears, ibex, lions, and even the occasional wolf or feline. The lines vary from bold, confident strokes to delicate, almost invisible traces, revealing both technical skill and a deep familiarity with animal form. Many figures overlap, suggesting the walls were reused and reinterpreted over generations, each engraving adding another layer to the cave's visual memory. Some of the most intriguing images are the few human figures, stylized, enigmatic, and far less naturalistic than the animals. Their rarity hints that humans themselves held a symbolic or marginal place in this visual world, perhaps as storytellers or intermediaries rather than central actors. The cramped, twisting galleries force visitors into intimate proximity with the art, creating the sense of being led through a silent procession of creatures. Without the color of paintings, the engravings rely entirely on light and shadow, their visibility changing with every movement of a torch. Here, in the quiet of Les Camberelles, the Ice Age bestiary waits in its stone corridors, a catalogue of life and meaning from a time when the line between human and animal was drawn in the thinnest of lines. Beneath the rolling hills of the Dordogne, the Cave of Cussac conceals one of the most monumental bodies of Paleolithic engravings ever discovered, works so vast and delicate that few have seen them in person. Dating to around 25,000 years ago, during the Gravettian period, the Cussac engravings cover the limestone walls in sweeping panels, some stretching over 14 meters in length. The subjects are both familiar and unusual. Mammoths, bison, horses, and ibex appear alongside enigmatic composite creatures and a rare abundance of human figures, many more than are typically found in Ice Age cave art. These humans are stylized rather than naturalistic. Elongated bodies, featureless faces, and, in some cases, exaggerated sexual characteristics. Their presence hints at symbolic or ritual significance, perhaps connected to fertility, myth, or social identity. The engravings are made with extraordinary precision, incised into the rock using flint tools. Their sheer scale suggests a planned effort, with artists working high on walls or along ceilings, sometimes layering figures so that animals and humans share the same space in intricate compositions. The cave also contains human remains, adding a further layer of mystery. Was this a sacred site, a burial space, or a sanctuary of images meant to outlast the living? Because of its fragility and the need for preservation, Cossack remains closed to the public. Yet even in photographs and scans, the engravings retain their power, vast, silent visions carved in darkness, carrying messages from a world that ended tens of millennia ago, but still whispers through the stone. Hidden in the Dordogne region of France, the Cave of Bernafel is a shadowed sanctuary where Paleolithic images linger in near-perfect silence. Dating to the Magdalenian period, around 13,000 to 15,000 years ago, its walls bear more than 100 figures, but it is the animal panels that command the most attention. Here, in the glow of torchlight, horses, bison, mammoths, and ibex emerge from the stone in both painted and engraved form. The artists worked with a confident economy of line, capturing the essential shapes of their subjects while using the natural curves of the limestone to suggest movement and mass. Some animals are rendered in bold black outlines, while others are lightly incised, their presence revealed only when light strikes at the right angle. Among these panels, certain details stand out. A horse with finely etched mane hairs, a mammoth with carefully arched tusks, and overlapping figures that suggest the wall was a living canvas, reused and reinterpreted over generations. The compositions are not chaotic. Rather, they feel intentional, as if arranged to convey relationships between species, between the real and the symbolic, or between the artists and the creatures they depicted. The cave's secluded setting and the preservation of its art hint at a place set apart from daily life, perhaps reserved for ritual, storytelling, or marking events of communal importance. In the stillness of Bernafel, the animal panels hold their quiet authority. They do not reveal their purpose, but they carry an unbroken connection to the minds that shaped them, a reminder that even in deep time, art remains a language we are still learning to understand. In the Dordogne quiet Vizier Valley, the small cave of Gabila holds a remarkably intimate treasury of Ice Age art. Among its most compelling works are the engraved horses. Created around 17,000 years ago during the Magdalenian period, these figures are carved with such finesse that they seem almost alive, emerging from the pale limestone in delicate, precise lines. The horses vary in size and pose. Some stand in profile, others turn their heads back as if glancing over their flanks. Manes are etched in fine strokes, individual hairs visible under the right light. The artists used the natural contours of the wall to give each figure depth and muscle tone, creating the illusion of movement when a torch passes across the surface. In some cases, the engravings are so faint that they appear only when illuminated from a specific angle, as if they were meant to be revealed slowly in ceremony or storytelling. Gabila's horses share the cave with other animals, bison, ibex, mammoths, and with a few enigmatic human forms, but the equine engravings stand out for their elegance and consistency. They suggest not just an observational knowledge of the animal, but an aesthetic appreciation, perhaps even reverence. Because Gabila is small and fragile, it remains closed to the public, its treasures studied only by specialists. Yet in this confined darkness, the engraved horses endure, silent, precise, and eternal, a testament to the Ice Age artist's ability to turn stone into something that still breathes. Deep in the Ariège Pyrenees, At the very end of a twisting, water-worn passage in the Tuc d'Audebert cave, lie two of the most extraordinary creations of Ice Age art, the clay bison. Crafted around 13,000 years ago during the Magdalenian period, these sculptures are not painted or engraved but modeled in 3 dimensions from the cave's own clay, standing side by side in perfect stillness. Each bison is about half a meter long, their bodies carefully shaped by hand to capture the heavy musculature, arched backs, and powerful necks of the species. The artists pressed and smoothed the clay, then scored it with fine lines to suggest fur, using fingers or tools fashioned from bone or wood. Even the tilt of the heads and the curve of the horns are rendered with lifelike precision, giving the impression of animals caught in a quiet moment, perhaps in the midst of mating or resting. What makes them especially remarkable is their location. Deep within a chamber that shows no signs of habitation, accessible only after a challenging crawl through narrow passages. There is no evidence they were meant to be seen often, if at all. This isolation has preserved them in their original form, untouched since the moment they were shaped. The purpose of the clay bison remains uncertain. Were they offerings, symbolic guardians, or part of a ritual performance in the flickering torchlight? Whatever their meaning, they stand today as some of the most intimate and tactile expressions of prehistoric artistry. Creatures born not from pigment on stone, but from earth itself, shaped by human hands in the darkness. Deep within the Arige cave of Chauvet, in a hidden chamber accessible only by crawling through a narrow, winding passage, there emerges one of the most enigmatic images of Ice Age art, the so-called sorcerer figure. Dating to around 13,000 years ago in the Magdalenian period, it is an intricate, composite being engraved high on the chamber wall, overlooking a scene filled with animals. The figure combines human and animal traits: the body and limbs of a man, the antlers of a stag, the ears of an owl, the eyes of a feline, and the tail of a horse or bison. Its arms are raised, one hand seeming to gesture, while its legs are slightly bent, as if caught in a slow, deliberate dance. The engraving is fine and detailed, with attention given to fur, feathers, and musculature. Yet its proportions and hybrid form place it firmly in the realm of the symbolic. Surrounding the sorcerer are dozens of animals: bison, horses, stags, ibex, rendered with a naturalism that contrasts sharply with the fantastical central figure. This juxtaposition has fueled decades of interpretation. Some see the sorcerer as a shaman in ritual costume, others as a spirit being representing mastery over the animal world, and still others as a mythic character from a long-lost oral tradition. The chamber where it resides, sometimes called the sanctuary, has an acoustical quality that amplifies sound, suggesting that sight and sound together may have played a role in whatever ceremonies occurred here. In the darkness, the sorcerer still stands, part man, part beast, entirely mysterious, a guardian of a story we can no longer fully hear. In the foothills of the French Pyrenees, the cave of Le Portel holds a remarkable collection of Paleolithic art, created during the Magdalenian period around 14,000 years ago. Among its many animal depictions, the most intriguing are the composite creatures, figures that blend the features of multiple species into single, fantastical forms. These hybrid beings are etched and painted with the same skill and confidence used for the cave's naturalistic bison, horses, and ibex. Yet they defy direct observation in the real world. Some combine the horns of an ibex with the body of a horse, or the muzzle of a bison with the lithe frame of a deer. Others are less easily categorized, their anatomical elements shifting between species as if caught mid-transformation. The composite nature of these creatures suggests they may have held symbolic or spiritual significance, perhaps representing mythic beings, clan totems, or animal spirits invoked in ritual. Their placement within the cave, often deep inside, far from daylight, hints that they were part of ceremonial spaces accessible only to certain individuals. Le Portel's art shows a mastery of both technique and imagination. The use of the rock's natural contours to shape bodies, the layering of pigment, and the fine incisions for detail all contribute to figures that feel deliberate and intentional, even when depicting the impossible. In the silent dark, The composite creatures linger as reminders that Ice Age art was not merely a record of the visible world. It was also a canvas for the unseen, where the boundaries between man, animal, and spirit could dissolve into something entirely new. In the Charente region of southwestern France, the cave of Le Placard preserves a distinctive and puzzling body of Paleolithic imagery, the signs and aviforms, dating to the Solutrean and Magdalenian periods, between roughly 20,000 and 14,000 years ago. These markings stand apart from the lifelike animal figures common in Ice Age art, focusing instead on abstract, symbolic forms. The aviforms, so named for their bird-like outline, consist of geometric shapes resembling a stylized bird's body with outstretched wings, though their true meaning is unknown. Alongside them are tectiforms, chevrons, and other linear motifs, carved or painted in black pigment. Many are carefully repeated, suggesting they were part of a standardized visual language rather than isolated artistic experiments. What makes the Le Placard signs even more intriguing is their recurrence in other sites, some hundreds of kilometers away, including the caves of Peshmerl and Cugnac. This distribution hints at a shared symbolic system, perhaps a form of proto-writing, ritual code, or group identity marker that spanned large regions of Ice Age Europe. The signs are often found in association with animal imagery, yet remain separate in placement, as if the two categories of art served different purposes. The aviforms in particular, with their clean outlines and consistent proportions, suggest deliberate teaching and replication over generations. Standing before these marks today, one senses they were meant to communicate something specific to those who knew the code. For us, the message has been severed by time, leaving only the symbols themselves, silent fragments of a language that once traveled across the Ice Age world. In the Gironde region of southwestern France, the cave of Pernon-Père contains one of the most finely executed engraved collections of the Upper Paleolithic, an Ice Age menagerie carved into its limestone walls over 30,000 years ago, likely during the Gravettian period. The engravings depict a diverse array of animals: mammoths with sweeping tusks, woolly rhinoceroses with massive horns, ibex poised as if climbing, sturdy bison, elegant horses, and even the rare presence of megaloceros, the giant deer with expansive antlers. The artists achieved remarkable naturalism through precise line work, using flint tools to capture the curves of muscle, the arch of a neck, and the texture of fur. Unlike some caves where figures are scattered, Pernon-Père's animals often appear in composed arrangements, sometimes overlapping, suggesting a deliberate aesthetic or symbolic organization. There is a sense of movement in the way the creatures are positioned: a mammoth lumbering forward, a rhinoceros lowering its head, a horse glancing back. What sets Pernon-Père apart is the clarity and depth of its engravings. Many lines are so sharp that they seem freshly cut, preserved by the stable conditions of the cave. The absence of painted pigment focuses attention entirely on form and technique, revealing an artistic skill that balances observation with stylization. The purpose of this engraved bestiary remains unknown. It may have been a place for storytelling, a symbolic record of the animal world, or a sacred gallery for ritual use. Today, in the quiet of its stone corridors, the animals of Pernon-Père still stand in silent procession, an unbroken link to the minds and hands that shaped them more than 30 millennia ago. Deep within the Monte Castillo cave complex in Cantabria, northern Spain, the panels of La Paisiega hold some of the most intriguing symbols of Paleolithic art. Among them, the scalariform sign. Dating to at least 64,000 years ago, this ladder-like motif consists of a rectangular frame intersected by vertical and horizontal lines, painted in vivid red ochre on the cave wall. Its age alone is extraordinary. Uranium-thorium dating of the calcite layer over the pigment suggests it was created long before modern humans arrived in the region, raising the possibility that Neanderthals themselves made it. If so, it stands as one of the oldest known examples of abstract symbolic expression in the archaeological record. The sign is part of a larger panel containing animal figures, hand stencils, and other geometric motifs, but its bold, structural form sets it apart. The exact meaning remains elusive. It may have represented a physical object, a map, a calendar, or an abstract concept entirely outside our modern frame of reference. Its deliberate execution and placement suggest it was not a casual mark but part of a coherent visual language. The scalariform sign's potential Neanderthal origin challenges the long-held view that symbolic thought and abstract art were exclusive to Homo sapiens. Whether it was a marker of place, a tool for counting, or a sacred emblem, it stands as a quiet but profound statement. Long before history began, the urge to encode meaning on stone was already alive. In the darkness of La Paisiega, the red lines remain, their message still locked behind tens of millennia of silence.